Imagine, if you will, that we have a most remarkable time machine. With the flick of a switch, we could leave our world of bustling cities and glowing screens behind. We could travel back, deep into the mists of the past, not just hundreds, but thousands, and even millions of years. What would we see? We would witness a world both familiar and strange, a world of vast, untouched landscapes and creatures long since vanished. But most importantly, we would meet our own family, not our grandparents or great-grandparents, but our ancient ancestors. This is the story of our human family, a magnificent journey of survival, innovation, and change that has led, step by step, to who we are today. On this very day, September 20th, 2025, our journey begins on the great continent of Africa, the cradle of humanity. Here, millions of years ago, a new kind of creature began to emerge. Instead, it is more like a great branching tree. It is a tale of incredible resilience against the odds. As we travel forward on our timeline, we will meet some of the most important members of our ancient family. This is the story of us. Our story's first great chapter begins around 6 million years ago in the woodlands and savannas of Africa. Here, a profound change began to happen. Our distant ancestors, creatures like Ardipithecus australopithecus, started to do something revolutionary. They stood up, they began to walk on two legs, bipedalism, moving through tall grasses, heads held high, seeing over vegetation, spotting predators, finding distant fruit trees. The world was changing. Dense forests shrinking, giving way to open grasslands. Walking on two legs equals efficient long-distance travel across these landscapes. One famous example, a skeleton nicknamed Lucy. Discovered in Ethiopia, she belonged to Australopithecus afarensis and lived over 3 million years ago. Her skeleton shows a pelvis and leg bones suited for walking upright. She still had long arms and curved fingers, suggesting comfort climbing trees. Lucy, at home on the ground and in the branches. This posture change became the foundation for everything that followed. The first, perhaps most important, step toward becoming human. Let us now travel forward in time and across the globe from Africa to Asia. Our journey takes us to a cave system near what is now Beijing, China. Here in the 1920s, scientists made one of the most exciting discoveries in the history of paleontology. They unearthed the fossil remains of an ancient human ancestor they named Sinanthropus pekinensis, which means Chinese man from Peking. We now know this creature as a type of Homo erectus, and it lived roughly between 750,000 years ago and 200,000 years ago. The discovery of Peking man was revolutionary, providing a fascinating window into a much more advanced stage of our family's story. Peking man was different from the earlier Australopithecines in several key ways. He stood fully upright, with a body proportion much more like our own. Most strikingly, his brain was significantly larger. While an Australopithecine's brain was only slightly larger than a chimpanzee's, Peking man's brain had grown to about 2/3 the size of a modern human's. This increased brain power was the engine for incredible new abilities. The caves at Zhoukoudian where the fossils were found were more than just a burial site, they were a home. Scientists discovered thousands of simple stone tools. He was a true pioneer of the ancient world. Imagine the scene. A group of Peking men gathered around a crackling fire in the dark cave. He was a true pioneer of the ancient world. As our ancestors' hands were freed by walking upright, they became instruments of incredible ingenuity. This is where the next great leap in our story occurs, the invention of tools. The first chapter of technology did not begin with computers or wheels, but with a simple, brilliant idea, striking one stone against another to create a sharp edge. The earliest known stone tools, called the Oldowan toolkit, appeared in Africa around 2.6 million years ago. They were made by a species called Homo habilis, or handyman. These early tools might look crude to our modern eyes, little more than broken rocks. But to our ancestors, they were revolutionary. A sharp-edged stone could do things that teeth and fingernails could not. It could be used to slice meat from a carcass left behind by a larger predator. It could be used to crack open bones to get at the nutritious marrow inside. It could also be used to sharpen a stick for digging up roots. Around 1.7 million years ago, a new kind of tool appeared, the Acheulean hand axe. Unlike the simple Oldowan choppers, these were carefully crafted, symmetrical, teardrop-shaped tools. Making one required foresight and skill. The creator had to have a mental image of the final product and execute a series of precise strikes to achieve it. This suggests a more advanced mind, capable of planning and abstract thought. These hand axes were the Swiss Army knives of the Stone Age, Used for butchering, the development of tool-making had a profound feedback loop with our own evolution. It marked the dawn of culture and technology, the very things that define our modern world. Imagine, if you will, a world of total darkness. A world where nightfall brings not only cold, but also the terrifying sounds of unseen predators lurking just beyond the edge of sight. Now, picture a single, flickering flame cutting through that darkness. This was the power of fire. Learning to control it was truly one of the most important moments in all of human history. Evidence from Peking Man suggests Homo erectus may have become the first master of the flame, perhaps 1,000,000 years ago. And this was not just stumbling on lightning-started fires, keeping it alive, tending to it, making it a permanent part of daily life. The benefits of a controlled fire were immediate and immense. First and foremost, it provided warmth. As our ancestors moved out of Africa into colder Asia and Europe, fire became essential for surviving harsh winters. It also offered something precious: protection. Most animals fear fire. A campfire created a protective circle of light and heat. For the first time, our ancestors could sleep more soundly, guarded by their fire through the long night. Beyond warmth and safety, fire revolutionized our diet. Cooking is a form of pre-digestion, making food safer and easier to digest. The campfire became the first community center. Fire did not just warm our bodies, it sparked our social world into life. Now let us travel to Europe and Western Asia, beginning around 400,000 years ago. Here, a new type of human evolved, one who was incredibly well adapted to the harsh, cold climates of the Ice Age. These were the Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis. For a long time, Neanderthals were depicted as brutish, unintelligent cavemen, but modern science has painted a much different, more fascinating picture. They were not our direct ancestors, but our close evolutionary cousins. We shared a common ancestor hundreds of thousands of years ago, but our paths diverged into two parallel human lines. Neanderthals were physically powerful. They had a stocky, barrel-chested build and shorter limbs compared to modern humans. This was a brilliant adaptation for conserving heat in a cold environment. Their skulls were long and low, with a prominent brow ridge over their eyes and a large nose, and their brains were on average just as large as ours, and in some cases even larger. They were not simple brutes. They were a sophisticated and highly successful species that thrived across a vast territory for over 300,000 years. They crafted a sophisticated range of stone tools known as the Mousterian toolkit. We have evidence that they cared for their sick and elderly. They also deliberately buried their dead, sometimes with offerings like flowers or tools. Many modern humans with European or Asian ancestry carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA in their genes. Of all the things that make us human, perhaps the most profound is our ability to speak. But when and how did language begin? This is one of the most difficult questions in human evolution because words do not fossilize. We cannot dig up the first spoken sentence. Instead, we must look for clues in the skeletons of our ancestors. The development of language was not a single event, but a long, slow process that likely began with simple gestures and sounds, gradually evolving into the complex systems of communication we use today. The physical capacity for speech depends on a specific anatomy. The shape and position of our larynx or voice box, a tiny bone called the hyoid bone, are crucial. By studying the skulls of our ancestors, scientists can reconstruct parts of their vocal tract. Homo erectus fossils show some of the early changes needed for speech: Neanderthals, early Homo sapiens. This suggests that both species had the physical equipment to produce a wide range of sounds, the building blocks of spoken words. But why did language evolve? Think of the complex tasks our ancestors were undertaking. Coordinating a group to hunt a giant mammoth, for example, would be much easier with language than with simple grunts and gestures. It is also the ultimate tool for teaching. The moment our ancestors began to truly speak to one another, they began to weave the intricate social fabric that holds our societies together. Our journey now brings us to our own species, Homo sapiens, which means wise man. We first appeared in Africa around 300,000 years ago. These early members of our species looked like us: high, rounded skull, small teeth, light build. For thousands of years we remained in Africa honing our skills. Then, in a series of waves beginning around 100,000 years ago, we began to expand out of Africa, spreading across the entire planet in geological terms. What made Homo sapiens so successful? Not one thing: a powerful combination of traits, sophisticated toolkits, mastery of fire. We took both to a new level. Our creativity exploded: beads made from shells, carved figures of animals and people from bone and ivory, cave murals, painted deep inside dark caves, advanced social networking and communication. Neanderthals, smaller isolated family groups. Homo sapiens, larger communities and wider networks. Long-distance trade of materials, not the strongest, not the fastest. Most adaptable, most cooperative, most creative the world had ever seen.